All right, Gator fans. We obviously know about what happened when Florida played Miami in the first game of the season opener last year in the Swamp. It was a 41-17 butt kicking. Miami destroyed Florida in every facet of the football game. Cam Ward was as good, actually better than he was advertised. Actually, not even good as advertised, better than advertised. The run game was on point with Mark Fletcher and Damian Martinez pounding the Gators in between the tackles. The receivers had a field day against Florida secondary. Florida couldn't get much going on the offensive side of the ball because Miami's pass rush was so good. It was the worst season opener in probably Florida Gator, excuse me, I should say worst home opener in Florida Gator history. And I think it's the worst loss in Billy Napier's career by far. When you look at the promotion that the game got, the hype that the game got, the significance of the rivalry between Florida and Miami, how it was a prominent rivalry through the 70s and 80s and 90s, and it's been inactive for a long time, so they rarely face each other. So when one team wins over the other one, the loss stings for a long time. And I was what I honestly thought it was the beginning of Billy Napier walking the green mile. I mean, I had already given up on Billy Napier after missing a bowl game the previous year in 2023, and then when he had that loss to Miami, that's when I was like, okay, enough's enough. That's too many big games or too many embarrassing performances this guy's had on the as the Gators coach. And obviously, being that it's Miami and it's college football rivalry, and in college football there's big rivalries, so you get um, bragging rights and the right to talk trash to your team that you destroyed for a year to come or even years to come if the rivalries come back every so often. So I get it. Hurricane fans have been bragging about it on social media every single day. Like there's not like a day has not gone by where a Hurricane fan on social media, Instagram, X, whatever college football Reddit hasn't brought up 41-17, and rightfully so because if I was a Hurricanes fan, I probably would be doing the same thing. But since I'm a Gators fan, I don't have that luxury. But I do have the luxury of, however, humbling Hurricane fans as they so justly needed. So I'm gonna bring up something that a little Twitter spat that I had with somebody, I believe over last week before the weekend. So I'm gonna pull up my X profile right now. I'm gonna bring up what I'm talking about. Chef Corey, who does Stadium and Gale, and he covers a YouTube channel, and he covers the Florida Gators as well as other Florida Gator pundits that I follow as well. Dave Waters, Ali Peak, Neil Schulman, and others. He was talking about a transfer portal addition that Miami was getting at the linebacker position. Here it is. Former Rutgers star line. Oh no, excuse me, a visit. Former Rutgers star linebacker Mohamed Toure is heading to Miami Wednesday. This was on April 30th that this post was made. And Chef Corey said Adarius Hayes was in the same classes as Miles Graham and Aaron Charles, who enrolled at Florida. Adarius Hayes was a longtime Gator commit, but then he flipped to Miami on early signing day. He flipped to Miami and has either he's entered the portal 2 years in a row, or I think that's what he meant when he said has been portaled over two years in a row, or got brought guys have been brought in from the portal over him. And Graham and Charles will have better starter snap counts this fall while Miami looks for a second portal linebacker. And he was talking about development. And then a Miami Hurricanes fan who's also a who does radio. He goes Mario and that's the tweet that you see on your screen. Mario and Billy are both going into year four. If Florida's development was so much better than Miami's, then why are Billy's win totals 6, 5, and 8, and including a massive, he meant butt whooping, but he used the peach emoji, at home to Miami, in which so happened to be the worst home opener in UF history? I'll wait for a well-developed response. Okay, buddy, here's your well-developed response. Yeah, you guys whooped us in that home opener. No denying it. There's no denying it there. Here's the problem. If you look up Miami's schedule, that was the biggest one. Or excuse me, what I should say is, if you look at Miami's season, That was the only significant victory you had that entire year. Because afterwards, you played three straight non-Power 5 opponents in Florida A&M, or FAMU for short, Ball State, USF. You played Virginia, then you beat Virginia Tech in California. Both of those teams ended with losing records in their because they lost their bowl games right afterwards. Virginia Tech and California ended the season 6-7. You beat Louisville, who was actually a decent team. You know, if you looked at the way they beat Clemson on the road, so they were respectable. Florida State, everybody beat Florida State last year. Duke, all right, I'll give you that one because they were nine. I think they were 8-4 or 9-3 somewhere under Manny Diaz, the coach that y'all fired. And then you had the losses to Georgia Tech in Syracuse, in Iowa State in the bowl game, and then in your final victory was against Wake Forest. So half of Miami's 10 victories came against teams with losing records. Ball State, Virginia Tech, California, Florida State, and Wake Forest. The only reason why the Florida game had any significance was because it's an in-state rivalry. It wasn't because Florida was ranked. None of the teams that Miami beat that past season was ranked. They were 0-3 against all their ranked opponents. They only faced one ranked opponent, that was Ohio State, but they lost to Georgia Tech when they were number 4 in the nation, and they lost to Syracuse at number 8 in the nation, and they lost their only ranked matchup in the bowl game against Iowa State. There wasn't really any other victory that you guys had besides 41-17. That was really all that you had. You couldn't brag about beating Florida State because that was terrible. Louisville, they were decent, but I'm not really sure that they were a much better team than Florida. I think they're kind of more evenly matched up with Florida, and you struggled with Louisville way more than you did with Florida. So, in the Duke game, yeah, you beat a good Duke team, or at least good by Duke standards, but it's Duke. You had way more talent than they did. So you, quite frankly, should have beaten them way worse than you did. I mean, it took you 53 points to beat Duke. Not in a blowout. It was actually a back-and-forth matchup. So it's that 41-17 victory was really the only significant victory you had that entire season. So, yeah, congratulations, you beat Florida 41-17, but Florida had way more impressive victories towards the end of the year. They beat LSU, who was ranked. They beat Ole Miss, who was in the top 10. And they actually won their bowl game. So Florida, despite getting whooped at the beginning of the year by you guys, finished the season on a way higher note than you did. You lost 3 of your final 4 games. Florida won 4 straight to end the season. Your final 4 games, you were 1-3. Florida was 4-0 to end the season. So, I mean, yeah, congratulations, you got that game, but you didn't do that much better than Florida outside of that particular matchup. And if you're going to talk about why are Billy Napier's win totals 6, 5, and 8, well, if you're going to talk about win totals, let's look at Mario's win totals, 5, 7, and 10, right? But the problem is, let's look at the schedules. 2022, Miami's schedule, non-conference schedule, included Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, Texas A&M, and Middle Tennessee. So that's 3 non-Power 5, Power 4 opponents, because the Pac-12 no longer exists. That's 3 non-Power 4 opponents. Another 3 non-Power 4 opponents. Miami of Ohio, Bethune-Cookman, and Temple. And, of course, you faced Texas A&M again. And then this past year, Florida, obviously. But then after that, you get Florida A&M, Ball State, and USF. So Mario Cristobal has gotten 3 non-Power 4 opponents in his previous 3 years as the Miami coach, which equals to 9. Billy Napier's only had 5 non-Power 4 opponents. Then compared to Mario Cristobal's 9. So if Mario Cristobal has all these extra games against cupcake competition, and he only has 3 more victories than Billy Napier, then that's not something too much to brag about, because Billy Napier's win total is 19-19. Mario Cristobal's 22-16. That's not that much better. It's better, but not by much. Especially when you playing in a much easier conference in the ACC than you do the SEC. And if you're talking about look at the victories. Billy Napier's had way more significant victories than Mario. The 2 that I talked about, LSU and Ole Miss, both were better than any victory Mario had this past season. And he won a bowl game. Mario Cristobal has yet to do that at Miami. The previous year, Florida's victory against Tennessee was better than any win that Miami had in 2023. Better than any victory. Okay, Miami of Ohio, Bethune-Cookman, Temple, Uh, Clemson, it was an average Clemson team at best. Virginia, terrible, and Boston College, meh. Then you go to the previous year. Billy Napier had beaten a top 10 Utah team in his first game, and he had beaten South Carolina, who the following 2 weeks would beat a couple of top 10 teams in Tennessee and Clemson. That was better than any victory Mario Cristobal had that year in his first season at Miami. Bethune-Cookman, Southern Miss, a bad Virginia Tech team, an even worse Virginia team, and a Georgia Tech team that had fired their head coach that season. And by the way, Georgia Tech has beaten Miami 2 years in a row. And as many gaffes as many blunders as Billy Napier has had as coach, I would argue Mario Cristobal's blunders have been worse because unlike Mario Cristobal, Billy Napier didn't lose to a Group of Five school in Middle Tennessee. He didn't lose a game to Duke where he turned the ball over 8 times in 2022. He didn't have a sure-handed victory against Georgia Tech in 2023 and gave it away because he chose to run the ball instead of simply kneeling it and ending the game right there like Mario did against Georgia Tech. And not only that, but Billy Napier also didn't get blown out by Mike Norvell at Florida State by 42 points. That was done by Mario Cristobal, 45-3. So, yeah, I mean, say what you want, but I would argue Mario Cristobal's losses at Miami have been far more embarrassing than Billy Napier's losses, and I would argue that Billy Napier's wins at Florida have had far more significance than Mario Cristobal's wins at Miami. Billy Napier has multiple wins against ranked opponents. Mario Cristobal only had one, and that was against Texas A&M in 2023. That's it. And Texas A&M didn't even finish the year on a good note. I think they were like 7-5 or 8-4 again, like they normally are. So I'm not here defending Billy Napier, say that I trust him as a coach. I wouldn't trust neither one of these coaches, to be honest with you. I wouldn't trust Napier or Cristobal. But between Napier and Cristobal, I would say Billy Napier's victories has had more significant victories or substantial victories in terms of importance than Mario Cristobal has at Miami. And like I said again, for a guy who was on the hot seat, Billy Napier kept his team together and finished the year on a good note, while your head coach lost 3 of his final 4 games. So, hey, but then again, it is the offseason. Miami won, so they get the final word. But we'll see what happens when these two teams face each other in September. So, be ready to eat humble pie, Hurricane fans. You can't spell scum without UM.